Okay, this is Nancy with Design Inventions, and today I'm going to color this poinsettia. It is a digital image from Sassy Stamps. We're going to use YG05, YG95, and YG97 for the leaves. Then I'm going to use R24, R29, and R59 for the poinsettia, and I'm going to dab in a little bit of Y17 in the center just for the points in there. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my YG05, and these are such, they're small leaves. I'm going to go ahead and I kind of come in here and I'm going to actually lay down all of my first color, my YG05, and I'm going to do, a couple of leaves at a time, only because I do want to keep a kind of a wet edge at this point on here. So I'm going to, lay in a couple of them, and I'm just going to lay that in. It's typically not the way I would leave a little bit of white space, but this is what I'm going to do. And I like this color because it gives a little bit more of brightness on the edges of them. So I'm going to come down here at the base, and I'm going to put in my YG93. And your YG series is a yellow-green, but it's also, sometimes it's going to have kind of a graying look to it. And then I'm going to come and lay in the YG. I could do the 95, but there's not that much difference in it, so I'm going to go and jump to the YG 97 just to add a little bit of depth down in here. And I am just doing a very, very, very quick basic draw here on this and coloring. So there's going to be a little bit there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull this up just a little bit to, get that color moving up just a little further around the edges, and come back in with my YG05 and just kind of blend these together. Okay. Now I turn my image around. You also can see that I have a paper towel underneath here. It would not be needed. I'm going to use that when I get to my reds, but and we'll speak a little bit about that. But that's why that paper towel is underneath there. It's a little bit more of absorbency when you're using some of that depth of color. It wouldn't be as necessary for this. It was just there. So I've colored that YG05 again on that one, and you can see I'm taking a couple of them at a time, a little bit of small circles and a little bit of flicking, just trying to get it in here, not a tremendous amount of real, I would say shading. It's relatively a flat image is what I'm working with. Then I'm going to come back in with my 93, kind of pull that color up a little bit. I just want to leave a little bit of that brightness on the top of the leaf. So you come pretty far up, then I'm going to come back with the 05, and you can see how we can just kind of mute some of that down. And they don't have to all be exactly the same. I'm seeing a little bit of a line here, so I just want to pull some of that up where it might still be wet. Again, I'm turning my image. I'm going to do a couple of different ones as I start with a different marker there. Wrong one, but it'll be fine. G05. I think I can go ahead and grab these three leaves together here. And I haven't totally hit the edges, as you can see, but that's okay. I am using Copic Express-It paper. I find that that's the best for me. It basically is a relatively clean, slicker image. I know, if the Nina brand is, some people may be familiar with that. You also may be, familiar with a Crafter's Companion type of paper. And I think that's not quite as slick and hard as this one is, and it's a little more porous. Some people get a better blend out of the different papers than others. I just personally like the Copic Express-It. It just works the best for me. You could be, very, I think it has to do with what colors you're actually working with. Reds in particular would be very dangerous for me. if I was working with something relatively soft. The other thing you have to do, you have to be careful with if you're using, a slick paper, is you could get what they call a float, and by a float would mean that your colors are just sitting on the top of the papers and they're not able to absorb because you've got so much color. I do happen to be a relatively heavy-handed person when it comes to coloring, so you would see when I get done with this leaf, we'll turn it over and see. You'll see more when I get done with my reds, but how much saturation I have on the back of my paper, and that's the other reason why I do have that paper towel down. When you're doing reds, sometimes that saturation will help the bleeding of going into something. And also, if you just don't go quite as far out to the edge of the line, you won't get the bleed out over the line. So I'm just adding that darker color just to kind of add some shading in there. Again, that was the YG97. Now I'm coming back in with my YG93. Coloring most of that, just kind of blending and pulling some of that up there, and then back out with this YG95. Look like I got a little spot there, but I can fix that. So that's the colors on the leaves. They've just kind of got a little bit of brightness on them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to recap my green markers right quick while we're getting ready for the rest of those colors, and we're going to add I'm going to add my Y17 yellow. I'm going to go ahead and dot those in. I'm just dotting them in. I think it'll be a little easier, and that way I won't mess with maybe getting it into the red. Let's turn it over and see. I do have some saturation, but it's not as bad. We'll turn it over again when I get to my reds. Again, you could do the poinsettias if you're being careful with your saturation. You could always start with dark to light, and that maybe would help the saturation point. But I am going to start again with my light to dark. I'm going to do it the same way I normally always do. And again, we're just going to, I could do some flicking motion back in here. I'm not seeing a tremendous amount of depth. There is some depth on some of these, and you could be very, very careful by working through that. But I'm going to pull my depth out of the center. So I've done that. Now that's the 24. Now I'm going to go back in with my R29, and I'm going to pull up just a little more color. I chose to go up to 29 and not add my 27 because I think that's where you get some saturation and you don't get the color variances that you really would like to. So now I have the R59, and I'm just going to bring a little bit of this R59 down in here. This is a great red to add that with. Then we're going to come back to the 29 and just pull this up, just your typical blending techniques there, a little bit further around. And again, I've chosen to do just a couple of leaves here together because I just want to keep the wet edge, and it's a lot easier to blend it. So now I'm just being very careful going around here, and then I'm just going to come down in here and blend. So again, just using the very, very tip of my marker, coming up here very lightly, pulling that in there. Again, I have to turn my image. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and continue this process on around, and just, there's a lot of lines there, and you can kind of go through there. This one right in here looks like it's laying back in there, and you could go into this image and actually lay in a color to help with your shading. If you really wanted to work on these petals and really add that depth of that line, you could do that, where we add in, and this is just really dark, and we leave the edge of that other one relatively light. You could do that. We could make this really, really dark and very little there. I'm back with my 29 and just kind of pulling some of this color up. And again, you could add some life that way, but I could work and work and work it. And that would be, you know, totally trying to add the depth of every little petal to the side. That would be another way. You could kind of go back and shade those in on the side if we wanted to do that. I'm just kind of getting some basic colors on here. You know, this particular petal right here, you know, we could come back in here and totally make it at the R. This is my R29, and it's dark, so it is laying back down in there. So that's, you know, again, looking at how the poinsettia is. But moving right along here, I'm going to do these couple of ones right in here. Again, just working my way back through. Markers seem to be very squeaky today, don't they? Okay, adding in that 59, and now we're just going to pull that up. Pull a little bit of that color up. And we're going to end with 24 again. Come back up in here. Just kind of blend that out. Get back in there very, very lightly. I mean, I'm just barely using the edge and kind of using some of those strokes to get to the edge. Okay, turning it once again, and we're going to catch this last, and I'm just kind of coming up around here. I think maybe I need to refill my red marker. That's one reason why they're squeaking a little bit. Okay, that was the 29. Now we're going to come in here and add a little bit of this 59. Working our way back with the 29. And we're going to top it back off with the 24. Very, very slightly going back up into there. Yep, it looks like I need to fill my marker. We'll get this image done. Like that. Okay, I see right here that I missed a teeny bit, so we're just going to go in there and catch that up right there. Okay. Okay, so we have that done. Okay, now what I would probably do, it depends, I might go in with a little bit of shimmer mist and mist that a little bit. I do have a Spica, and this is the Spica Buttermilk. And I'm just going to go in here and I'm just going to dot a little bit of that Spica in the center too, just to add a little glimmer on those center of that poinsettia. So there you go. This is a poinsettia, and this is Sassy Stamps. It's a digital image. Thanks for stopping by.